The inventory was pretty brutal if we done it the way that the book's talking about. Now we have one more big hurdle to jump before we really begin to move into the spiritual awakening. By this point, we've really begun to wake up. We've started to see things differently than we'd ever seen them before. And now I'm going to have to take that one step further. Now, the man that takes the first 5 steps is not the same man that takes the last 7, because a new man emerges, and thank God he does. And when he told me this stuff, you know, by this time I'm starting to believe and trust what he's telling me, because everything he's told me has come true up to this point. So when he told me that the man that took the first 5 steps is not the man that takes the last 7, he didn't only tell me, he began to show me how that works. So we're going to look at page 72, chapter 6, Into Action. For those of you on Zoom, that's where we're at. And it says, having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? Now, we've been trying to get a new attitude and a new relationship with our Creator. That's the only reason I did that inventory. It's not that I already didn't have a different attitude or a different relationship, because I did. But we're looking for a new attitude and a new relationship, since the old one obviously wasn't that good. To discover the obstacles in our path, that was what would be known as the 4th column, the turnarounds. We've admitted certain defects in that 4th column work we did. We've ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now, these are about to be cast out. Now, if you hold your place right there, and let's run back to page 27 for just a second. This was the conversation, and we read this morning, that Dr. Jung was having with Carl Jung at the time, or Carl Jung was having with Roland Hazard. Yes, replied the doctor, there is exception to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of a huge emotional displacement, rearrangement, ideas and emotions. That's what's fixing to happen to us as a result of step 5, which were once the guiding force of the lives of these men. And look at these 5 words. They're suddenly cast to one side, and a new set comes in and begins to dominate. So when we get back over here to page 72, where we were at, it's very clear now that these are about to be cast out. Cast out of where? Out of my consciousness, because that's where they've been this whole time. Now, this requires action on my part, which, when completed, will mean I've admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step mentioned in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapters. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person, and he had me stop right there. And he said, David, I know the new guy needs to vent and tell all them dirty, nasty, and filthy things that he's ever done. But the problem with that is you start making up a story and adding to it, or either taking away from it, and you don't really tell the truth. He says, it says right here that we discuss our defects, not your filth, so I'm not here to hear your filth. Well, that's something new. Really? He said, I'm more interested in what drove you to do any of that than I am actually what you done. It says we think we have done well in admitting these things to ourselves. There's doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We'll be more reconciled to discussing ourselves, not other people. He said, I don't want to hear about other people, David. Them 2 words says we discuss ourselves. That's what we're going to discuss, is you, not them. With another person when we see good reasons why we should do. So, the best reason first, if we skip this 5th step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives, Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. They invariably got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, in other words, the first 4 steps, they wondered why they failed. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but held on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought, key word, that's danger, that they had lost egoism and fear. You know, whenever the Spirit moves, I don't have to think that I've lost egoism and fear. Hell, I know. They only thought they had humbled themselves. Same there. They had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense that we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. And we're not talking about the way that treatment centers have us to write our life stories. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. Now, if we're not careful, we can do this in sobriety. We're very much the actor. To the outer world, we present our stage character, and this is the one we like our fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but in his heart, he knows he doesn't deserve it. I can remember reading this over them years thinking, good God. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his spree, coming to his senses. He is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles. That means he's afraid to think that someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes the memories far inside of self, or self pushes them far inside of him, and hopes that they'll never see the light of day. He's under constant fear and tension, and that makes him more drink. So, bottom page. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightfully and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom we take this intimate, confidential step. Now, Mike told me, David, you're the one that gets to choose this. If you don't want me to do it with you, you find whoever you want. I know the old cliche in AA is that you always do it with your sponsor, but that's not what the book says. When I qualify a person for sponsorship on page 90, and we're going to see that in the morning, if you see anybody say, I need a sponsor, I'll be like, yeah, here we go, over here, come over here. Well, there's a whole process we go through before doing that. There's the same one here. It says, those of us belonging to a religious denomination that requires confession must, and of course, we want to go to properly appointed authorities whose duty it is to receive. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk to someone ordained by established religion. What does this man need to look like? That's what I want to know. What does he need to look like? It's more than about can he just keep his mouth shut. It's more about than, him just being my sponsor. Now, I'm just going to hit on some highlighted things that I want to look for in this man, which obviously is my sponsor, was at the time. And so let's look at some of the key words that we want to look for in such a man. We often find such a person to quick to see, and here's the key words, understand our problem. That's one of the first things that this man is going to have in order for me to choose him to sit there and listen to me. He needs to understand my problem. Just not my problem of addiction, but my problem of what drove me to that addiction to begin with, being that long sober with as much sobriety and recovery as I had. Of course, we encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. Hell, kind of like myself. I didn't really understand. If we could not or would not rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for and here's another attribute of that man, closed mouth, understanding friend. Now, he's going to have to be that for damn sure. Perhaps it's our doctor or psychologist will be the person, maybe one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or parents, which are her to make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Here's another attribute of that man. Such parts of our stories we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. He needs to be somebody that can understand yet be unaffected by what I'm fixing to tell him. They say there are no rules in Alcoholics Anonymous. My book says that's bullshit, because right here's one. The rule is that we must be hard on us and always considerate of them. That's hard to do for self-centered people. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, the step must maybe postponed Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through it at the first opportunity. T-Bone said, do you go to many meetings? And I said, I go to a lot of them. He said, then there's people there that will understand. I promise. We say this because we're very anxious to talk to, here's the key words, the right person. It's important that he be able to keep a confidence. I got to know that because I'm fixing to tell you some things that would probably put me in jail for the rest of my days. I needed to know at that time that T-Bone could keep a confidence. And in my spirit, I really felt like he could. I told him things that I've never really ever told another man. And he has always been with me since day one in my recovery. I would even go to him today with those kind of things. It says that he would fully understand and approve at what I'm driving at. Here's another thing that he needs, an attribute, that he will not try to change my plan. We don't use this as a mere excuse to postpone. And when I am to decide, see, it's my decision who's going to hear this story. It might not be him. When I decide who's to hear my story, I'm going to waste no time. I've got a written inventory in my hand, and I'm prepared for a long talk. Here's another attribute of this man. I explained to a partner what I'm about to do and why we have to do it, and he should realize that we're engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. So we're going to pocket our pride and go through it. Once I've picked the guy, we're going with it. I'm going to pocket my pride and go to it, eliminating every twist of character. That's the first direction and the fifth step. Every dark cranny of the past. I'm going to pull things out now that I promised that I was never going to tell anybody. I was going to the grave with this stuff. I'm going to talk about it. Now, once I've taken this step, withholding nothing, key words. Look at this first promise. I'm delighted. It had been a long time since I've been delighted. We can look the world in the eye. I guarantee you today I can do that. I don't care who knows about what happened to me. It doesn't matter anymore. I know I can look the world in the eye. I can be alone at perfect peace and ease. I could never do that before. I always had to have somebody with me. Always. My fears fall from me. See, I don't get rid of them. They say, oh, I'm working on my fears. Well, good luck with that. Let me know how that turns out. Because it's I that's working on them that seems to be causing them. So, no, we don't get rid of them. They fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. Man, what a promise. Yeah, this is what I've been waiting on. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now the transformation takes place. Between those words, beliefs and now. See, all of this time in this work up to here, I've had these spiritual beliefs, but now I'm beginning to have a spiritual experience. That's far beyond the belief. That's why I say it says we came to believe that a power. Hell, it doesn't say anything about coming to believe in a power. Big difference. The feeling that the drink or whatever problem it is has disappeared will often come strongly. I mean, that's a hell of a thing. The very thing that was once killing me on a daily basis, now it's disappeared, and that feeling comes strongly. We will feel that we're on a broad highway walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Now, I always just thought that meant right here. Pretty cool riding. I'll just do that through this step move. No, this is talking about from right here on through the rest of this work, all the way up to step 12. I'm walking a different man now. I'm walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. There is no I and me. There is only power. There is only we. There is no I and we. My daughter told me, batshit crazy daughter. She said, Dad, there is no I and we. Like, that's the most profound shit I've ever heard, and I've been in AA for 20 years at that time. No I and we. Wow. Yeah. So, what a promise. I mean, so this is the second half of the fifth step. We sit down, we're going to do everything he tells us to do here. We're going to pour all this out on the table. That's just the first half. Now, everything I've done up to this point has been with the sponsor. Every bit of it. He's read with me. We prayed together in 3. We've written inventory. He's kept a good eye on it all the way through to make sure I was doing it right. But now I'm about to break off by myself for a little bit. Returning home, we find a place where we can get quiet for an hour. That's talking about within. Now, carefully reviewing what we have done, we thank God. This is my prayer. From the bottom of my heart, I know him better. I remember sitting down and thanking God as best I could at the time from the very bottom of my heart that I knew him better. I'm taking this book down from the shelf, and by now I didn't want to do anything the book didn't say to do, so I remember putting it up on the damn shelf and taking it down. We turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, and if you'll hold your place and run back to 59 just a second, that's the page that contains the 12 steps. Now, if you'll hold that page in your hand and go back to 75, it says this. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, that's what Bill calls the steps. So I'm going to flip back to 59. I'm going to look at one. And I'm going to say, God, did I miss anything when I sit down with my sponsor? And if anything comes to me, I'm going to jot it down on a notebook. But if nothing comes, I'm going to go to 2. What about 2? What about 3, 4, and 5? Did I miss anything? I'm going to carefully review the first 5 proposals, asking if I've omitted anything. For we're building an ark. Remember that ark a while ago we looked at? Through which we shall walk a free man at last. We're not talking about from drinking here, because by this time we haven't had a drink in a good long time. We're talking about walking free from self. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? He told me stop there. Go back to page 47 and look at the cornerstone. Is step 2 in place, David? He had me to go to page 62 and look at the keystone. He said, David, is the keystone in place? And as I looked and reviewed and agreed that they were, I asked myself, have I skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Page 17 talks about the cement today. Have I tried to make mortar without sand? Am I going to meetings and not practicing the program, or I'm trying to practice the program and not going to meetings? Have I tried to make mortar without sand? Now, if I can answer all of those questions to my satisfaction, then I'm going to look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted or objectionable? Where did I admit those things at? To my sponsor in that 5th step. Can he take them now? Can he now take them all, every one? If we cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. If I've got a resentment that I'm still hanging on to, I need to ask God to help me be willing to let it go. It doesn't mean I can't move on to step 7. It just means I need to be willing to let that go if I want freedom. If I'm holding on to a fear, if I'm holding on to a secret that I will not let go, I need to get that out. So after my hour review, I'm going to say something like this. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. See, the good drives me away from God, and the bad drives me to him. I want him to have both. Because, see, I don't know the difference. I pray that you would now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way. See, he's not going to take them all. Me and a friend was talking about that just a few minutes ago. People say, I don't have any more defects. Well, good luck with that. Because my book don't say any of that. What it says right here is we're asking for the ones to be removed that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding, and look at this one word. Now we're going to close out the prayer word. Amen. See, we didn't close that out in step 3. Why? Because everything we did from step 3 to step 7 was done prayer and action, prayer and action. Are you doing it prayerfully, David? Did you pray? Did you do it prayerfully? Did you pray? Did you pray? Did you pray? I prayed. He's like, all right, you did it right. It's like, you get to this part of the book and it says, amen. Prayer closes. Finally. It's like, you think you're done, huh? No, I don't, but I think I'm done with all that for sure. Look at that, the rest of that sentence. We've then completed step 7. Now, they always told me in the program, you never complete the steps. They never end. I'm reading that thinking, we've completed. He said, don't let that get in your head. That means we've completed a body of work between 3 and 7. And now we've closed it out with prayer. See, I've got right with God in 1, 2, and 3, and 4 through 7. I've got right with David now. There's only one more thing left for me to do, and that's to get right with you. Oh, crap. Now comes the acid test, for sure.